AP will do it wrong, so we're here to do it right. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here with our first GE Top 25 video of the season. One of my favorite videos to do every single week, bringing you our official Top 25 rankings every single week. No influence from the AP or the media or the playoff poll, no. Our own Gridiron Expert rankings every single week right here on the channel. Of course, a set of rankings that I'm sure everybody watching will certainly agree with. So we're going to jump into every single one of these teams. Before we get started, again, welcome back to the channel. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years, and we will make it 7 by the end of this year. Our first set of NFL picks will be coming out this season, with the NFL season kicking off on Thursday. You do not want to miss out on all of our spread picks, guys. It will be the best decision you make all season long. Come win big with us over at thegridironexpert.com. Again, the link down in the description below. So let's take a look at our top 25 rankings. You know, some of the influence from this actually came from our way too early top 25. A set of rankings we put out many months ago. That kind of influenced some of our rankings, especially later on, probably about 15 down. We'll start over in the top 10. No surprise with a handful of teams up at the top. Georgia is the undisputed #1 team in the country, and that once again showed when they decimated Clemson 34-3 in Atlanta this last Saturday. There really is no debate. You cannot argue for any other team to be the #1 team in the country as of right now. And Georgia will more than likely remain our #1 team in the country until proven otherwise. I mean, they're going to have to lose or just have a really, really bad performance against a very, very bad team for them to lose that top spot. Behind them, Ohio State taking care of Akron 52-6, kind of the undisputed 1 and 2 in the country. Some would argue for Texas, some would argue for Oregon or Alabama. I say no, not right now. I do have Texas at number 3, though, ahead of Oregon for some people, and here's why. Texas looked great against Colorado State. And they lose their star running back. They've got a new core of wide receivers, lose a handful of defensive starters, and they didn't miss a beat. A Colorado State team that averaged over 300 passing yards per game last year could hardly move the ball, got shut out 52-0. Oregon, on the other hand, some are saying, why so high? Why do I have the Ducks at number 4 when they only beat Idaho out of the FCS, only beat them by 10, 24-14? Here's the thing, and this is the case for every top 25 team, this is the case for every team across the country. Week 1 is hard, man. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Week 1 is the first time these teams are seeing live action against another opponent, not themselves, in about 9 months. You're going to go through mistakes. You're going to make boneheaded mistakes. You're going to go through some growing pains, things like that, especially for Oregon that's dealing with a new quarterback and some new guys up front and some new guys on defense, things like that. You're going to deal with that. That transition from week 1 to week 2, though, is going to be drastic. Oregon's going to look like the team we expected them to be come week 2 when they take on Boise State. But the Ducks really weren't as bad on Saturday as people want to make them out to be. Yes, they only won by 10. Should they have won by more? Absolutely. But they missed a field goal. They had a fumble at the Idaho 22. They got stuffed on downs twice. They got to settle for a field goal inside the 10-yard line instead of scoring a touchdown. If they had played a dang near flawless game, Oregon probably would have won that game by at least 24 points, if not more. So the Ducks, to me, are still national title contenders. I'm not going to say they are overrated or not as good as we want to say they are. If they pull this again this week against Boise State, maybe we'll have that conversation. But for now, Oregon deserving of the number 4 spot. Very much so. No doubt about it in my mind. Behind them, number 5, Notre Dame. They move up a few spots after beating Texas A&M, a very difficult place to play in College Station, and Notre Dame's defense traveled well. Held the Aggies to 13 points. Connor Wigman had just 100 passing yards on the day, forced a handful of turnovers. Big time win for Marcus Freeman's squad. One of, if not the toughest game of the year for Notre Dame. They passed that test. They should remain a top 10 team all season long. Alabama at 6, first game under Kalen DeBoer, first game without Nick Saban in, nearly 2 decades right now. They win that game 63-0 over Western Kentucky. Big time win for them, not because of the opponent, but because of the statement they made. It didn't really look like anything had changed despite the loss of the greatest head coach in all of college football. Ole Miss right behind them at number 7, beating Furman 76-0. Penn State, big-time road win at West Virginia, winning 34-12. A great balanced attack from the Nittany Lions. 2 new coordinators. The offense looked great. The defense held West Virginia to just 85 rushing yards on the day. They were able to maintain their composure despite the long rain delay. Big-time win over a quality Power 4 opponent. Big things ahead for Penn State this season. Missouri and Utah rounding out our top 10, both defeating FCS teams. Missouri taking down Murray State 51-0. Utah, Southern Utah 49-0. And the return of Cam Rising looked like he had been playing all year last year. Didn't play in all of 2023. Came back and looked great. The Utes going to have a tougher test, though, in week 2 when they host Baylor. So that rounds out our top 10. Some would say maybe Michigan should be in the top 10. Maybe Miami should be in the top 10. I say no to either right now. Michigan did defeat Fresno State 30-10, but they're going to go through some growing pains offensively. The offense did not look great for the Wolverines. They've got a lot to work on that side of the ball, but their defense still remains one of the best in the entire country. They've got a big test in week 2, one of the best games of the week. We got our helmets back there. Michigan and Texas, the game of the week. Our prediction for that game coming out here in just a few days right here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But can the Wolverines defense carry them in that game? They're going to have to find some sort of offense to keep up with Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns, but they still remain in the top 15 at number 11. Miami skyrocketing up the rankings for us in at number 12 after that dominant performance on the road at Florida. And what I say is it's one thing to beat Florida. That spread was 2.5, so it was really a toss-up. Were the Gators going to win? Were the Miami Hurricanes going to win? But it's one thing to win. It's another thing to go in and control the game from start to finish and win by 24 points and outgain the Gators by nearly 300 yards and put up 500 yards of offense in that game. Man, Miami looked like this was a mid-season team. They looked all the part as the best team in the ACC, all the part as a college football playoff contender. It was a very, very impressive performance from Mario Cristobal's squad. And Cam Ward looking all the part as the star quarterback that they were hoping they were getting in the transfer portal. So Miami, going to be dangerous this year. Again, the best team in the ACC as of right now. They're in at number 12, ahead of Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava had a fantastic regular season debut for the Volunteers. They beat Chattanooga 69-3. They've got a big game coming up this Saturday against NC State, and we'll have a prediction for that game coming out here in just a few weeks, just a few days as well. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, 14-15. Some would say the Sooners should be above the Cowboys. I say no. I've had Oklahoma State ranked above Oklahoma since the preseason, since back in January, February, and I'm not going to change that now. They got a big win over the number 1 team in the FCS, South Dakota State. One would argue that Oklahoma State's win over South Dakota State, even though they only won by 24, was better than Oklahoma's 48-point victory over Temple. I would agree with that. I would say that. I think Oklahoma State's defense still certainly needs some work. They've got a true test this weekend against Arkansas. Prediction for that coming in just a few days. But the Cowboys right now above the Sooners, their in-state rival, although the Sooners looking very, very good as well. USC in at 16. I didn't have USC ranked to start the year. So some would say USC should be higher, maybe in the top 15, maybe where Miami is. I'm going to say no right now. They got a last-second win over LSU, which was an absolute thriller, well-deserved, unbelievable performance from Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. The defense took a major step forward. Miller Moss looked phenomenal. It was a big win. All the credit in the world to this team. But I'm not going to take them from unranked or a fringe top 25 team and put them all the way up towards the top 10. Just not going to do that. So I like USC a lot. I think the potential is very high there. I think they could be in for a better year than maybe we expected in their first year in the Big Ten, but going to keep them at 16 for now. And I think that's very respectable. Even from the AP poll, from 23rd to 16th is a 7-spot rise. I think that's very respectable and very normal as well, considering who's all ahead of them. Kansas and Kansas State, kind of similar to Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. I've had Kansas ahead of the Wildcats since the beginning. That's not going to change now. Kansas taking down Lindenwood 48-3. Kansas State defeating UT Martin 41-6. The Wildcats, my preseason pick to win the Big 12. We'll see how that pans out. They got a big test in week 2 coming up against Tulane. We'll touch more on that here in a few days as well. But right now, Kansas is going to have a 1-spot edge over their rival. LSU still remains in the top 20. LSU is a good team. LSU was very close to winning that game over USC. I mean, it really could have gone either way. Garrett Nussmeier played great. The defense, for the most part, looked improved compared to what we saw last year. Just couldn't get a stop on that final drive that led to the USC game-winning touchdown. But LSU still has a very quality team. Yes, they have dropped their 5th straight season opener, but the last 2 years, they've lost that opener and have bounced back in a big way with back-to-back double-digit win seasons. So I still have faith in Brian Kelly, still have faith in the Tigers. I'm not going to have them losing this game and then falling out of the top 25 or really down to 24-25. To me, this is still a top 20 caliber team. Rounding out the top 20, we've got Arizona. they've got to work on defense. They beat New Mexico 61-39. Teteroa McMillan, unbelievable. Unbelievable. One of, if not the best wide receiver in the country. This offense is going to be really, really fun to watch, but they're not going to go anywhere. The team as a whole isn't going to go anywhere if they can't fix their defense. It's something to watch out for, but Arizona is still rounding out our top 20, still a top 25 caliber team. Rounding out the top 25 for us, Louisville. They were not ranked by the AP poll. They were ranked by us, though. This is a team that had a very successful first season under Jeff Braun, brings in a lot of talent this year, had a great debut beating Austin Peay 62-0. Their offense is going to be one of the best in the ACC. Could challenge Miami in the ACC, considering Georgia Tech is good, but Florida State is not good. Clemson didn't look that great. The ACC kind of wide open this year, maybe not as deep or talented as we thought it was going to be, but do not sleep on the Cardinals, who we have at 21. Iowa State. Kind of see what we're doing here with the rivals. Not intentionally. It's really not. But we got Iowa at 22, Iowa State at 23. The Hawkeyes beating Illinois State 40-0. Somewhat misleading. They only led 6-0 at halftime. Really came to life in the second half. Later in the second half, I should add. But they did get that win, a shutout victory. Defense looking great. Offense maybe taking that step forward. Iowa State 21-3 win over North Dakota. Not all that impressive, but the defense once again doing their job. These two teams will meet in week 2. Cy-Hawk Trophy game. We'll have a prediction on that here in a few days. So some of the best games of the week we're going to be predicting right here on the channel. All the more reason to subscribe and come back every single day. Last two teams, we've got Clemson. Here's why. Clemson, to me, does not deserve to drop out of the top 25. They are still a quality team. Now, if they struggle against App State, they lose to App State, whatever happens, maybe they'll drop out. But they lost to the number 1 team in the country. Yes, they lost by 31 points. I understand that. Yes, they didn't look good, but it was only a 6-0 game at halftime. The defense was doing everything they could. It was the offense that was hurting Clemson the most. The offense what held Clemson back. And it could be what holds them back all season long. But I'm not going to take Clemson from a top 15 caliber team and drop them out of the top 25 for a loss in Atlanta to the number 1 team in the country, practically in their backyard. I'm just not going to do that. I still believe Clemson has enough talent to remain as a top 25 program. That could change next week, could change in 2 weeks, but right now I do have them as a fringe top 25 team. I believe they deserve to be in this spot and not horribly punished for a loss to the best team in the country and what has been the best team in the country for the last couple of years. And then finally, Boise State, they round out our top 25, slipping them in there as that group of 5 team. They are our projected highest ranked group of 5 champion. Big time road win against a solid Georgia Southern team. It's an underrated Georgia Southern team. That crazy shootout that Ashton Jeanty carried the Broncos to victory in, rushed for nearly 300 yards, 6 touchdowns in that game. Was a very, very fun game to watch. Boise State traveling to Oregon. Interesting game there in week 2. We'll have more on that here in a few days. Something to watch out for. But the Broncos slipping into the top 25 over teams like SMU, NC State, Washington, teams like that. Maybe they fall out after 1 week if they lose to Oregon. But right now, I do believe they deserve to be ranked in the top 25. So there you have it, guys. Our first GE top 25 of the season. Leave your thoughts below. Let's get your rankings. Let's get your thoughts. We've got a big week 2 coming up. A lot of big-time marquee matchups. A lot of matchups that are going to drastically shake up these rankings here. It's our first ranking of the season. Rankings now don't matter as much as they do later on in November. So bear with us. Let's get through this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready to debate. I'm ready to rank. I'm ready to watch. I'm ready to see some massive upsets and some massive shakeups. And that's exactly what we're going to have every single week going forward. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. Go sign up for those today before this next week starts, because you're going to want the spread picks for some of the best games of the week. So go check it out. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.